Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 202, Books. Taskation gets representation. Recorded on Friday, June 10th, 2022 from Zenatta Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Greg Belnap. Let's get right on into the show.
That's it. We're going to start with our PSA, Greg. Get right on into that. If you've been following this over the last 6-7 weeks or so, we've kind of had this issue where Zoho Books bank feeds have been broken for some banks. Chase is the big one since it's the biggest bank in the U.S. It's been broken there. We got an update just this morning at 9:01 a.m. from Geetha over in the finance team, letting us know they're done with development from their end, and Yodlee is migrating users to their platform. First stage, then to production. Based on how that goes, when that goes, they're going to confirm dates for us. So hopefully we will have a nice little update there soon. Next week they're going to give us an update. So hopefully on the next show, we've got the bank feeds fixed and away we go.
Yep, fingers crossed. If anything though, I'm grateful for these PSA announcements because now that the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial is over, I need something to raise the tension in my life and really sink my teeth into. So this has definitely provided that. I appreciate Zenatta covering
I didn't watch any of that. I'm kind of disappointed. I watched the OJ trial, which I hear this is like the OJ trial for its pure spectator sport aspect of it, but I didn't watch any of it. But after getting all the updates, I was like, wow, that could have been a great way to kill time. Just record that and watch it in the evenings, the next one coming up is that Brad Pitt wants a public trial against Angelina Jolie. They own a chateau winery in France called Miraval, and she sold it out from under him, her stake out from under him to a Russian oligarch. And and he wants a public trial. So that could be a good one. That could be the next big thing for us to watch, Greg.
All right, great. Yeah, we'll have a separate podcast for that.
We do. Do you think that's why people tune into this? Are there people watching us for this kind of good stuff, or maybe we should just move on?
Oh yeah, no, they don't. Most of our viewers don't even use Zoho. They're just here for tea.
Just here for the entertainment. Perfect. Yeah. Well, I guess with that, let's get into news or events and announcements. I don't really have any announcements, but I can tell you we've got some events coming up on June 21st. Tyler and I, oh, by the way, Greg, thank you for subbing in again today on this show.
Of course.
Some people may be asking, where's Tyler? Well, last week, Tyler was moving from Cincinnati to Colorado, or from Cincinnati to the Denver area. I guess I should use states. Ohio to Denver, or Cincinnati, or Ohio to Colorado. Anyway, he's doing
the great state of Denver.
Yes. And so he got there and all was great and got their new place and their pod arrived and they unpacked and then he got the COVID. So he's doing fine though, but just not feeling up for the show today, which we can understand,
Yeah. Isn't that a coincidence?
It is. I know. Did you have anything to do with that, Greg?
What's we got going on?
Well, assuming Tyler has fully recovered from the COVID in the next 11 days, then he will be here for our Zoho Marketing Full Product Tutorial. We're going to talk about Zoho campaigns, and we're going to talk about marketing automation. We've talked about this before. Hey, marketing automation team, you got 11 days to get that new version out. Otherwise, we won't be talking about marketing automation other than to say, don't use marketing automation, just use campaigns. But either way, we're going to cover that on that upcoming webinar. And then on June 30th, Zoho is doing one on qualified electronic signatures made easy with Zoho Sign. And by the way, they told us last week, this is actually coming for the US soon. So we'll have that as well. And then Zoho BI Tools full product tutorial. That's us again. That's going to be July 19th. I literally will have nothing to contribute to that. I just kind of sit there, Greg, and just kind of go, yeah. So that's how it works, because I spend zero time in analytics. And August 16th, I'm kind of cool. I'm happy about this one. We're going to do something different where we're going to try to explain all the Zoho bundle roos because there are so many different Zoho bundles. And oftentimes we're asked, what bundle's right for me? What should I do with this bundle? And you would think, how can you do an entire show just on bundles? But there's a lot there. There's a lot there. So anyway, did you get the
So many
bundle-roo reference, by
considerations.
the way?
The
Bundle-roo?
bundle.
We got a
I'm
bundle-roo?
afraid that one.
That'd be South Park. That would be the South Park where they're trying to get the PlayStation Xbox debate, and there's a whole bunch of roos. Anyway, goes way back. Probably South Park season 10, which was what, 100 years ago. All right. Gosh darn, we've managed to kill 6 minutes and we haven't even gotten to the news. Let's get right to the news.
Do it. And we got a ton.
We do. All right, Greg. So let's start off with create for Zoho Bigin. You can now create pop-up and lookup fields and MailChimp related lists and user lookup field. Do you have a chance to go over this?
Yeah. So similar to what we've got in the CRM, right? Where if you're filling in a lookup field, instead of going to the separate create record screen, if you need to like add a new account to a contact, you can have like just the mandatory fields show up and just that little quick create. So that's what this little pop-up is doing, is just allowing for that ad hoc creation of accounts as you need to fill them in, or whatever the lookup field is looking up to. And then them also adding the like the user fields, just that right now there's only the account owner or the record owner. Now there's other custom user fields, like if you wanted to assign that you have different users that would have different roles on a particular job and things like that, you can have those on there now. It's really interesting to me, like just with Bigin in general, because these are very standard CRM features.
Right.
And so it's like I'm trying to figure out, what is Bigin's end goal here? Are we just slowly creeping back until this is just the CRM? We're just slowly adding back in features?
It was strange. I mean, when it came out, it was really just kind of a real stripped down version of, it's basically Pipedrive, right? I mean, real
Mhm.
Kanbans for tasks and all those kind of things. And, and it does have a much more modern interface and that whole kind of a Kanban-y, everything's kind of Kanban. But then you make a good point, because they just keep adding in and adding in and adding in. The only implementations we've done of it are because it comes with Zoho One. So if you get Zoho One, you get standard CRM, you get Bigin. And so we have done some implementations where internal staff, marketing, that kind of stuff, management, they're all on CRM, but the outside salespeople are on Bigin, because they talk to each other, they sync up. You basically can have real simple pipeline management in here,
Mhm.
and it is very simplified. I mean, if we look at this screen right here that we're showing, I mean, this is really all you got, right? You don't have
Yeah.
any of the other big modules. You've just got a very, very, very simplified uh, view, and that's it. So it just does keep it kind of tight. You're getting rid of all the reports and all the dashboards and all the, I mean, what do we have? 900 tabs across our CRM.
Well, and is there a shared database between Bigin and the CRM, or do we have to like end up linking those two together, like
It's
copy
actually
and
a sync. It's a synchronization, but it's fairly quick. It's very similar to the synchronization between kind of books and CRM. So usually no more than 4 or 5 minutes, but sometimes instantaneous. It depends, but it is a sync, and it syncs the data over.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah, and additionally, this is if you have Mailchimp, because a lot of people are buying Bigin and they're just buying it because it's super cheap as their CRM, but they're running other products out there. And so maybe they've got MailChimp. So it's just going to pull MailChimp in as a related list, which is also, pretty interesting across the board. So, again, kind of blowing up this image. If you're watching this on YouTube, related lists and Bigin run across the top of the screen, not down the side. And so now you got a MailChimp related list. You can see that, anything they did in that campaign. So it looks like it's a real synchronization. It's going to tell you they opened it, they added another, they clicked on it, all that kind of stuff. So fairly detailed view. So if you're using MailChimp and you're using Bigin, well, gosh darn, you're all good to go. All right, and moving
That's awesome.
on here, Zoho Vault. A whole bunch of things going on here in Zoho Vault. So, Greg, I was looking at this, and so for those of you who don't know, Zoho Vault is Zoho's password manager. It's like OnePass or LastPass or any of those. But this looks like they've added some technical stuff here. So they're introducing webhooks and command line. So, talk to me about how these webhooks are working.
Yeah, so the webhooks are you can trigger them to get sent out on certain events, and it looks like right now the webhooks are just associated with security alerts, right? So you know how somebody tries to whenever you get a new sign in on a new device, you would get an email that says, "Hey, just want to let you know there was a sign on this device. If you don't recognize it, take action or whatever." The webhooks allow you to, if you wanted to point those alerts to go, anywhere else. Like they give the examples of Slack, Click, anything really like that. So wherever you can receive a webhook, then you could send that security alert. So I think right now it's just for those alerts. And then for the
All right.
command line interface, this is if you wanted to interact with uh, Zoho Vault via your computer's terminal instead of using the app interface.
Interesting. I guess
I
that.
don't know why you would need to, but well, I guess because sometimes people will do if they're creating like widgets or like JavaScript files that they're going to package. You usually do that in the terminal, and so perhaps well, and you do need to log in through your terminal when you're packing a widget to
Yeah.
show that you have permission to do so. So it's probably for that, so that you can pull those Zoho Vault passwords while you're packing those widgets together.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of quick little, you know, a lot of quick little commands. So I would imagine if you are a command line interface person, that's going to be helpful and go rather, help you across the board.
Yeah.
It's funny when I'll date myself here, but when we moved from DOS to Windows, um, it seemed like it was the most insanely stupid interface in the world, because if you wanted to just move files from one to the other, you were just like CD backslash da da da, asterisk slash copy blah 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 directory and just hit go, rather than, oh, let me open Finder, let me go to that directory, let me copy the files, let me go to the other directory, let me drop them over here, because if you were a DOS user, but of course it opened it up to the entire world. So must have some power users sitting over there at
Yeah.
Zoho. Yes. All right. And now you got dark mode. Always important. Probably the most important
Mm.
update. You can also there's a dark mode that you can do
Yep. At
with
least
Vault.
for Tyler, it would be the most important thing.
Yes. Yes. And they've
He loves.
made some enhancements to password sharing. So also very nice as well. All right. Moving right along. We've got the financial suite updates. So usually, since our first show was on the 3rd, these hadn't come out yet, but in the first week of of the month, all of the financial updates are released. They're pretty much the same. We've got it for Zoho Books, we've got it for Zoho Invoice, and we've got it for Zoho Expense. So we'll kind of go through these. You can now have KeyPay integration. So if you're in Australia or UK, you know what KeyPay is, and that now integrates with Zoho Books, which is very nice if you are using that service. And then I think this is kind of a cool one, Greg. You now can create tasks in Zoho Books. So you couldn't do that before. You now, if you want to follow up on something, it's an invoice or whatever, you can create a task. Consequently, the name of our show, all right? Taxation
Yep.
with representation. There you go.
Taskation. I need you to say it right.
Taskation.
There we
Did I
go.
get that? Yeah, there you
I
go.
do my best. I do my best to give you harder and harder titles to say every week. That's
Yeah,
usually my
because
goal. Is
if
how
you
can I
don't know
make
whether or
Brett
not Greg is
good?
always the one who writes the titles for the show. So it's been good. Anyway, you can
But
now
yeah,
do tasks. So what I
yeah. So
haven't
the cool
checked
things about
yet, is this going to show
I
up
was
under
going to
the
say
unified task view?
I don't think it shows up on the unified task view, but I was kind of playing around with it. The nice thing is that it shows up next to the notification bell. So if you have any open or in progress tasks, then it shows up as a, there's a little red number for how many open or in progress tasks you have that are assigned to you. So you can, it's kind of like, I think they figured that, oh, there's already so many notifications that always come through, and most people
Yeah.
probably ignore them because they just get filled up way too fast. And so tasks essentially are like, okay, here's where you can put the things that are actually like super duper important for you to follow up on.
Well, I do
I
like
think it's a
this.
great little start. There's a couple little UI things that could make it a little bit nicer. Like you just have to do a couple of. I feel like there's one or two too many clicks to be able to mark something as complete. Like so you'll click on that little clipboard there. It'll take you to your list of all tasks, and
Yeah.
then you can click on the task. Then you can click on what the task is attached to and go there and actually look at it. Then that takes you to a sales order, for example, like, oh, please review this sales
Got it.
order. You click on the task, you go to the sales order, then you got to click on the task icon in the sales order to see the task, click on it, click change status, mark as complete. So just
Simple.
if some of that stuff could kind of be streamlined, I think it would be even better. But
Yeah.
I think this will be a good addition.
Okay. Note to the finance team: get together with the product team that's responsible for Zoho tasks, because one of the nice thing about that is it pulls in all your tasks from all the different applications. So let's not leave this one hanging out there, little orphan sitting out there. Let's get that one added in. Hey, and now you can do
Mhm.
bulk actions in the client portal for invoices. So if you don't know, in Zoho Books, you actually can give your clients a login. They can go in, view what they owe, what invoices they have to pay, what invoices they paid, all those kind of things. Um, but in the past, they would have to handle them one at a time. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see we've got a screen here. It's got a list. This person has a lot of invoices that are due, and they basically can go through and you can just check as many as you want. You can download them or you can pay them all at once, and it's kind of roll them all up. So very, very nice there as well for the client portal. And your e-invoices now have e-invoice QR code scanner for iOS and iPad OS in Saudi Arabia. Okay. So if you're in Saudi Arabia, you probably know that as per the zakat, right? Tax and customs authority, which I guess is Zat of Saudi Arabia, it's mandatory that they have to adopt e-invoicing and you need QR codes. So I've just taken that as far as it can go. Anyway, you've got it.
Mhm.
And now they also have support for Arabic language, dark mode, and dynamic fonts. So rock and roll there. So there you go. We'll be covering that a little bit too. Zoho is really been doing a big push into the Middle East, and we'll kind of talk about that here in a bit as well. They're really getting their stuff set up for that. June, well, also now moving on to invoices for the financial update. It's got a whole new look, which is kind of nice. So the invoices are clean and you can kind of play with those. That has to be in books, but I haven't looked at it yet. So must be. You've also got the bulk invoices. They've made some changes to language support in the Hindi edition, and you can
Yep.
hide tax details in templates now. So if you're seeing it here in Zoho Invoice, it's also in Zoho Books because it's the same darn thing. They're actually the same. They're just, one stripped down the other. So you
Yeah.
got that as well. And then,
I will
Greg,
say
the
for the
last one here is go ahead.
I was gonna say for the tax exemption one. So like I was looking at that one because like they have the example there where you've got two or three different taxes applied, and so like it's just like a lot of extra lines on your invoice there, so you can choose to hide those. Although it just kind of makes those go away, and so now you've just got a subtotal that's one number, and then just a total that's a different number right after that.
Got it.
Um, so like I feel like what would be a nicer thing would be if you could switch between say an expanded or consolidated tax view, right? Like if
Yeah.
you wanted to say, oh, yeah, there's like 4 or 5 different taxes that are all applied to this invoice, but let's just roll it all up into one total tax line and put it in there instead of splitting it up. But it's kind of you either get all the details or you get nothing. So I kind of wish there was a little bit of a middle ground
Interesting.
there.
And I do like this new little feature. I haven't seen this before. You can now show amounts in words. So if you just wanted to spell everything out, you could do
Hmm.
that. Uh-huh. Because that's much more concise. I like that. All right. And then wrapping up with the finance Zoho Expense product updates for June. Um, we talked about this before. Zoho has just done a huge integration with HSBC. It's like a direct integration. I actually think it is. We thought it wasn't available here in the States. I think it is. I don't know. I'm going to look into that some more.
Hmm.
And so now with that, you actually can just do online reimbursements and expense directly to HSBC. Um, and then they've got vendor mapping options for users with shared access in Xero and QuickBooks Online. So again, Zoho has all these different products. So even though Expense is kind of its own product, as part of the finance suite, oftentimes people just buy Expense. So kind of the market leader out there is a product called Concur. Zoho is really caught up with Concur in a lot of ways over the last several years. And so maybe a company's looking out there and say, hey, I just want to have Concur. And so, or I just want to have Zoho Expense, but there's no way I'm giving up QuickBooks or I'm giving up Xero. Well, you don't have to. You've now got that integration as well. And you've got a new account type to track reimbursable expenses in QuickBooks Online, which is extremely helpful. This is one of those things. All these different account types. This is what Concur had that Zoho didn't, and they've slowly been adding this into Expense.
Hmm.
You've also got department types now, which is extremely helpful. You didn't used to have that before. So some good stuff here. Any comments on this, Greg? Or
No, just that good that they're kind of recognizing that a lot of people just they like to stick with QuickBooks for whatever reason, and so kind of affording that flexibility of obviously things are probably going to be smoother and more unified if you just use Zoho Books, but if for whatever reason you don't want to make the switch over, you're not going to be out of luck. They'll still they're still looking out for you, QuickBooks folks.
fantastic. And the chat room is saying that the task thing in books doesn't seem to be available in Canada. That's odd because Canada's still on the North American data center, I believe. I don't know your data center is getting spun up soon. That seems really, really odd. We'll have to look into that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why that is. So, all right. And moving on with the news, we were talking about Zoho's kind of expansion in the Middle East, what they're doing there. So Zoho Mail now gets right to left interface in Zoho Mail. For those of you that aren't familiar, there are many languages um, in this world where they don't write from left to right and you don't read from left to right. They write from right to left and you read from right to left. And so that was not supported in Zoho Mail, and now it is. So my guess is no one could use Zoho Mail over in the Middle East until now. So I would think that that is probably a very nice update, especially if you you know speak and write Arabic. Probably really helpful when you're using Zoho Mail. So there you
Yeah,
go.
and the nice thing is that it's directly tied to the languages that use it. So it's not like you don't have to have like an extra setting to go switch it to the right to left. It's just if you select Arabic, it's automatically going to switch you to that right to left reading style.
Very nice. Nice job. All right, moving on. And we do have a lot of mail this week. All right, we have some enhancements to Zoho Calendar. Um, so you've got a little widget now. Zoho Calendar is now available in Zoho Mail as a widget, which is cool. Um, Meeting recordings to your rescue. So if you're using Zoho Meeting, this is only for Zoho Meeting, and there's a calendar invite, you can put the calendar invite out. You can set it to record the meeting. And if you don't make the meeting, it's automatically going to record the meeting. And you can basically just go check out that recording directly directly from the calendar. So you just go into the calendar and go, I want to listen to that. I missed it. So pretty cool,
Mhm.
Greg. I like that. And
Yeah,
then,
good stuff.
gosh darn, things I thought were there. You can allow forwarding of events now in Zoho Calendar. So that's
Couldn't do
one of
it.
those little things.
Couldn't do it.
You know, so just like every other calendar software, you can now allow the forwarding of calendar events, which is a good thing. They must have just overlooked that somehow. So there it is.
Yeah.
All right. And moving right along, going to Zoho Meeting.
Also, right before we talk about meetings, I do. So I see that in the chat we're talking about the task not being there in Canada. I think it's actually we probably just need to activate it. So if you want the tasks in Zoho Books, if you go to your settings, preferences, and then under the general tab, you've got like a whole column of checkboxes for all the different modules that you want to enable. You have to go down and find the tasks one, which is right at the bottom, and check that box, and then scroll all the way down at the bottom of your preferences, hit save. Then the tasks will be enabled for you in Zoho Books. So just in case
Yep.
if that was the missing piece.
And back on Zoho Calendar, Artie in the chat room is asking, does it sync with any other calendars? Yes, you can do a feed. Just like you can share any other calendar, you can share it and you can do a feed that way as well. One of the things in Zoho Calendar, it just needs, there's some other integrations it needs. It needs some, I don't know. Actually, I think Zoho Calendar now does Zoom. It's covering a few of the different meeting softwares that are out there. But if you're in the Zoho universe, it works perfectly well. It works perfectly
Mhm.
well. Um,
Yeah.
all righty. Okay. Zoho Meeting got some updates. So we'll kind of cover those. You can now do polls in a meeting. So you can spin up a poll like you would in a webinar when you're in a meeting. Um,
Mhm.
Something that, oh gosh, I thought that was there. You can now assign a co-host and leave the meeting. So that is a key thing. It's funny. Zoho Meeting has come so far, and it is actually exceptionally good. But sometimes when we read these updates, we're like, wow, I guess because those are key features, guys. You know that. I mean, oftentimes you're in a meeting, you're the host, you got to go. Greg, you take over, you make Greg the host, and you go. That won't work. You'll just have to say, okay, guys, I'm leaving the meeting, and you have to leave your computer on and kind of leave that meeting in progress, right, while you kind of go away. So this allows you to leave the meeting and assign a host. Good stuff. Better screen sharing. You can now zoom in on your screen. You can change it from 25 to 10%, which is fantastic. And then in webinars, you've got some data cleanup. Admins can automate the deletion of old data, including session reports, recordings. That is super nice. So I'll give them kudos for this. That is just super, super, super nice to be able to set that up, because you can also hit storage limits and all that kind of stuff. And you've got filters, virtual background filters, all that kind of stuff. So pretty,
Yep.
pretty darn nice. Yep.
Yep. They're
All right.
they're always getting closer and closer to just how Zoom is currently.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're after, right? I mean, they want to be the go-to meeting in Zoom, and they're there, and it's good. I mean, right now, the only thing on meeting and webinar is the recording quality. We've talked about it. That's it. It's great otherwise, and we keep testing that, because really, one of the only reasons we use Zoom is because of the recording quality, because we record almost every single client meeting we do, and we automatically make
Mhm.
that available. The reporting quality just can be a little jittery, and you really can't have that. All right. And they did some bug fixes. So there you go. And Metamizer asked, does a poll stop the meeting? That's the problem with most of them. I have no idea. It's brand new. I haven't played with it yet, but we'll run some polls and we'll find out. And yeah, the calendar
Well, and
has been massively upgraded.
there's also a
What's that?
question of with the like co-host and leaving, because you know how like in Zoom, it's you could assign somebody else as the co-host and leave, but if you start another meeting, it's going to end that original meeting, at least in Zoom. And so I don't know if it's the same
Yeah,
thing in Zoho Meeting here.
that's a big problem. I really, I wish Zoom didn't do that. I would love, man, if Meeting doesn't do that, that would be
I
interesting,
don't.
because you're right, Greg. That's one of those things. And what Greg's saying is, I'm the host of a meeting and I make Greg the host because I got to go to another meeting. Well, if it's a Zoom meeting, I can't go to that meeting because as soon as I start that meeting, it ends the meeting anyway. So I wonder if Zoho Meeting allows you to have multiple meetings going at the same time. That would be interesting. Fantastic.
We'll
And
find out.
moving on with yet more news. Zoho Desk mobile activities associated with a ticket are now accessible in the latest version of the Zoho Desk Android mobile app. Not much more I can say with that. I think the title says it all. You
Yep.
basically the
The just
activities, tasks.
enough yep, enough people bugged them about it that they said, "Hey, can we see the activities?" Enough people bugged them
There
that
it
they
is.
did it.
You can see your upcoming, your spam activities. Oh, it's all right there. All right, moving on. And wrapping up the news, this is more of a PSA. If you're a Ring Central user, they are one of the few telephony application that pretty much supports every single Zoho app where you would want to have telephony. That includes Zoho Recruit. Um, they are retiring older version of Zoho Recruit's Ring Central app, but they have a new version. All right. So you'll need to upgrade to the new version of the Ring Central app for Zoho Recruit. And if you subscribe to our newsletter, there's a big little update now button. You can go, it's going to take care of it. You can uninstall your old one, enable technology, it's reinstall the new one, and away you go. So for those Ring Central users in Zoho Recruit, um, you want to do that. And I tell you, this is a hard lesson. I mean, way early on, gosh, I want to say 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I remember I had a client. I remember what he liked Jive, I think it was at the time. And so, we got him all set up and he loved it and everything. And we found out it didn't work on Recruit and he wasn't happy and we had to change it. And
Mhm.
that was when I was like, hang on, you can have telephony. All telephony apps are not the same. So they're not universal across all of the various Zoho apps. So you do need to pay a lot of attention when you are choosing your telephony application. And we were going to dive in. I know we talked last week. There were a whole bunch of changes to Zoho Voice, and we're excited to look at that. But our Zoho Voice person went down with the COVID. And so he's back now. Just today he came back. I'm alive. So hopefully next week we can dive in and see what we've got going on there. And with that, Greg, why don't we get to the implementation of the week?
Absolutely. So this implementation is with our Zoho Analytics team. They were building a number of reports that in the uh, they had to build a lot of SQL data tables, right? That to mesh a bunch of data from different apps together, and there were points in the code where they had to hard code in some date values, and they would have had to make a different SQL table for each different hard coded value that they were going to have to put in. But fortunately, there are dynamic variables, sort of global variables that you can have in Zoho Analytics. Something that we've talked about in the CRM before is you have CRM variables, right, that are kind of global across all modules so that if there's any kind of standard value for something that's company wide, then you can keep that variable stored there and call it, update it, whatever. Now, in the case of the analytics variables, these ones are interesting because you can set them up as a range of values. Like from one date to another, or from 0 to 100, whatever it is. And then you can take those variables, have that variable be inside of your SQL table or inside of a formula column that you set up in a table. And then inside of a report or chart or dashboard, you can bring in that variable as a user filter. And then you can slide and change the value of that variable in that user filter to then adjust all of your tables and charts. So it's a really cool um, a way that you can, it makes your data so much more flexible, and we're able to present a lot more information in a smaller space, rather than having to create 4 or 5 different tables of the same thing because there's one hard-coded value that you have to change in between each one. So, yeah, so real big kudos to the to our analytics team that put this one together. Oh,
Hey, Brett,
I
you're muted.
can't hear you. Oh boy. Normally this would be a dream
Hey,
come true for me. Normally I can't get him to shut up. What? Sorry, what's that?
no, I thought you were going to say it would be a dream come true for my wife, but no. I said, we're doing so many interesting things these days with analytics. It's nice, it's amazing to see the stuff we're doing. I mean, we're writing back to CRM, we're writing back to other apps, we're pulling it. I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't think analytics was necessarily completely intended for as a BI tool, but we're able to just do so many nifty things with it. This is another one of those. And Greg's, just so you can continue talking, why don't we go see what's over on Club Zenatta and talk about the code share of the week, shall we?
Absolutely.
And looky, it was written by you. So this is
It-
convert
it-
JSON table to HTML. So more acronyms, please.
yes. So the post is by me, but I will say that the actual code snippet was written by our superstar developer, Lucas. So I believe we've already done a post before about the XML related lists in the code snippets. We've definitely talked about it in implementations of the week before, right? Where you can take a table of data, convert it into XML, and then display it as a related list in the CRM. Well, this code snippet can do the same thing, except rather than converting it to an XML format, it will convert that JSON data into an HTML format. So if you are, say, creating an email inside of Deluge, and you pull a list of records that you want to be able to put onto this email, you can use this little function that Lucas has put together that has a couple of input arguments. One, of course, is the JSON array, your list of maps, which might be a list of sales orders or a list of deals or a list of contacts, whatever. And then he has a couple of sort of color setting variables that you can set, like the hex code color for the column headers, and for the and then for the text color, in that it defaults to black background with white text, and then some alternating row colors. But yeah, this is a great little snippet for, if you just need to, if you're trying to display something in HTML, or another place that this is very useful is in Creator, because in Creator apps you can create custom HTML pages to present data, and so this is a very nifty little tool that can convert all that
Nice.
Zoho data into something readable.
So what is a JSON array?
Yeah, so JSON is it's how all of the data in Zoho is structured, right? Where you've got, say, on a deal, right? You've got fields. Amount is $1,000. Closing date is May 1st. That sort of thing. So you could have a JSON map, right, where that would have amount 1,000, closing date May 1st, et cetera, et cetera. And then you could also have an array or list of a bunch of those pieces of data. And so that's what we're talking about here, is that if you had, there's Deluge tasks you can do, like zoho.crm. Search records, right? And you can search for, give me all deals where the account is Boeing or, whatever. And then the response for that function is one of these JSON arrays, one of these lists of records. And so you could take the results from that search, convert that into an HTML table that's displayable in an email or an HTML page, a WordPress page, whatever.
Yes, and TJ in the chat room is asking me, what is JSON, question mark? Well, I just wanted, even though I may know, I think it's important
Of
that other
course
people
you
know
know.
who may
Of
be listening.
course you
I'll tell
know,
you a funny story.
Brett.
You mentioned
We know.
XML earlier. Um, XML. So way back like 2000, I was working with a company. We had a product called Bug Solver. And it was interesting. It was an application that ran on Windows machines. And anytime there was a crash, anytime anything happened, it captured it and sent it to our servers in XML so we could do it. We could analyze it and see what it was. And we had an outside marketing consultant who said, "Oh, I like that XML. Is that new?" And we're like, "Relatively." And he's like, "Oh, that's great. So streaming XML. We're streaming XML." And they're like, "Yeah, we're not really streaming XML. No, we're streaming XML." And honest to God, we had a big ad, Bug Solver with streaming XML. It was just, it was the
That's
best,
not it.
man. You
That's
got
not
to,
what it is.
marketing. Anyway, for that and other fascinating things, head over to club.zenatta.com. This is our local community where you can talk about anything and everything. It's extremely active. There's a lot of conversation going on over here. I'm really, really happy with the engagement in this community. If you haven't joined, join. We've got a general discussion group. You can ask any question you want. We've got our code share forum where if you're having trouble sleeping, you go in there and read that if you're not a developer. If you're a developer, you'll find it interesting. But if you're not, go in, read a few of those. You'll be asleep quick as you know it. And then you can go to our Q&A where you can ask us questions that Greg and I will answer, because I don't think Tyler's ever coming back on the show every week. And we also have all the news. So any of the latest news from Zoho gets posted over here. That's basically what makes up our show. So if you don't want to wait till for our newsletter, you don't want to wait for the show, all the big stories, they end up over here as well. All righty. And with that, let us get into our read of the week. All right, over at Forbes, the one, the only Vijay Sundaram. He is I think he's like the EVP of Zoho for the United States, or he's Chief Strategy Officer for Zoho. He pretty much runs the overall US, an absolutely great guy. And he has written an article called 4 Ways Marketers Can Succeed in the Absence of Third-Party Cookies. If you aren't familiar with this, basically Apple basically crushed Facebook and a whole lot of other people by not allowing third-party cookies to be tracked on their apps or inside any of the apps that are run. This caused all sorts of problems from a marketing perspective. But if you also don't know, Zoho is very much aligned with Apple from a privacy perspective. If you go on any Zoho app and you're running something that, looks and see how many cookies or trackers or any of that stuff is, you'll notice the number is usually 0, because Zoho does really values your privacy. So that being said, you basically can, this is a nice little article as to how you can get around that. Incentivize customer advocacy, leverage technology that unites marketing, sales, support, diversify your product, reallocating your marketing funds to different areas, and got some ideas on how to prepare for that cookieless future. So if you're doing advertising and you need cookies, Zoho has been doing a fairly good job of this for a while, and kudos to Vijay for putting this out there. Any thoughts on this, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, it's always an interesting discussion about, cookies, privacy, all that sort of thing. Because it's the kind of thing where if you as an individual, I would, if I hear the phrase like, "Oh, did you know that like all these businesses are just like they're using all these things to figure out who you are and like what you like so that they can like target ads towards you and everything like that." You think to yourself, I don't like that. That feels a little icky to me, so I don't like the idea of it. But then if you're on the business side, if you own a business and somebody says, "Hey, there's a way that we can have these sort of little hidden things to help identify people that would probably like your product," and you could be able to figure out what kind of people are responding to your emails, what kind of people are not responding to your emails, and adjust your marketing accordingly. On that side, it sounds really great. So it's
Right.
like, it's,
And
yeah, it's such a
exactly. And
toss
if you
up.
want to know the power of cookies, do you know what I was looking at the other day? Well, gosh darn it, I was looking at Squarespace, and I was on the Squarespace site. And you know what else I was on? I was on New York Times. Um, and so, you know, uh, these ads are not being fed to me randomly, right? They are not being
Right.
fed randomly at all. So it's yes. If you ever wonder why this stuff follows you around wherever you go, that is why. So anyway, nice job, Vijay. And with that, let's see what's head over to Zenatta.com, see what we got going on over there. All right. John Oda, our director of finance over here, has given you 7 reasons you should switch to Zoho Books. I'll give you one. I'll give you one. If you're using Zoho, Zoho Books is fantastic. I mean, the integrations with all the other Zoho apps are amazing. What does he start with? Integrations. That's it. That's a big one. Reporting, the pricing. Man, you can't beat the pricing. How about free? If
Yeah.
you've got a really small business with less than $50,000 in revenue, it's free. Now, I wonder about that. How do they know that, Greg? Do they check your bank balance, check your revenue, see what's going on there? You can
That's
get
a good
that for
question.
free.
I guess probably. I mean, they probably would. You'd probably get like an alert if they can see that
Yeah.
your recorded revenue is above a certain amount, and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
congratulations! Looks like you're doing great.
Congratulations.
Just so you know, we do need to upgrade you if you're going to keep making this much money." So
That's it. Going to pay us $12 a month now. Which, by the way, if you're using QuickBooks, even at their high-end premium edition at $36 per organization per month, up to 10 users, that's a killer deal. It's a great
yeah.
application. So really,
And
really
as
worth.
a PSA about QuickBooks, because I've done some side by side comparisons for people before, and uh, when you go to QuickBooks, they'll often show that, like, hey, we're actually, like, you can get it for $15 a month or whatever for our premium thing, and there's like a price slash for it. But it's a little hard to see. But there's the fine print of, like, yes, you get that reduced price for, like, I think the first year, and then after that jumps back up to the full. It doubles that back to the $30 a month
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
billing annually. So it's actually a big chunk at the beginning of the year or whatever. So
Yeah. You're right. And Zoho, I think, has had their first in price increase in forever last year, which was 15%, which was not major, but it was the first one they'd had in a very, very long time. And you're pretty safe with Zoho as far as price increases go and what they're doing there. But it's a great application. I highly recommend if it does have some things it doesn't do. It sits in our maybe category. If you're on Zenatta.com and you want to go to our resource library under resources, this is where we break down, should you use these apps? Yes, we think those are best in class. You're good. Maybe they're not best in class, still good enough. Books falls there. It's got some things on progress billing. It's got a few little things mostly around the construction industry and those kind of things. There are a few reasons, it's kind of a maybe. Also, maybe you've got an accounting firm you're working with. They're going to say, no, sorry, we only do QuickBooks. Someone in the chat room just brought up that exact same thing I just noticed. You've got a whole lot of, there's little things there. But for most businesses, I would say 80% of the businesses we encounter, if they're in the Zoho ecosystem, moving to Books is a great way to go. And there are really some economical ways you can migrate.
also, maybe you have Chase Bank.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. By
so
the way,
that's
did I
definitely in
tell
a
my
mix.
story? Someone was telling me they listened to the CRM Zen Show. Did I mention the Chase Bank, the fraud, while I was out of town? I must have mentioned that last week on the show. Someone
You
brought
did,
that
yes.
up. So kudos to Chase Bank, because after basically talking to 15 people on their customer helpline, I actually reached out, was talking to one of our clients because I was thinking of switching banks because of the fraud and the bank feeds and everything else. And I said, who do you bank with, buddy? And he goes, oh, I bank with Chase. I'm like, oh, I guess. He goes, oh, you just need to talk to my banker. I got on with the banker. Patrick, shout out to you. Next thing you know, my account's locked down, all fraud stopped. Everything I needed to do was great. So they got that all squared away for me. So anyway, there's that. But yes. All right. And with that, I guess we should move on to our app of the week. All right. This is an app that our web team uses, our developers use. Oftentimes, maybe you want to know kind of just what's going on with your website. Well, this is called BuiltWith. And it's free and it has a paid version, but you can basically type in any website in here and do a quick lookup. I'm typing up Zenatta.com if you're watching us on YouTube, and it's going to tell me, everything that's going on here, analytics and tracking, CRM, Zoho's in here, Google Analytics. It's going to tell me any widgets that we have installed, WP Rocket, Talkify. Still need to get rid of Talkify, guys. All kinds of stuff. It basically gives you, what's happening. What are they on? They're on WordPress. Everything that's going on with the website. Super, super, super helpful if you are, going to be working on it. You want to know what's going on. Maybe you want to put something, you want to add something, you want to know if something's already there, you want to know what version they're on. Mostly this is for developers, but I find, there's a lot of benefit, I think, just to look at this in general on your website and see all the stuff that's going on your website. It's quite amazing, quite detailed. They give you a basic technology profile for free. If you want the detailed profile, the metadata profile, the relationship profile, the redirect profile, company profile, you do need to pay for it. Not a whole lot of money. Oh, I guess we are paying for it. It's $99 a year for that, and kind of worth the price. So there
Well,
you
yeah,
go.
and I mean, we just saw case in point. Talkify was still on there. You're like, guys, get it out of there. So if anything, just get the free one to figure out. Oh, I still have that plugin or that extension that doesn't do
Yep.
anything anymore, and get it
I'm
out of
not
there.
using it anymore. Right, right. It's got all of that, which is pretty interesting. And actually, one of our senior consultants, TJ, pointed this out to us, and he also wanted to let us know there is a Chrome extension for it as well, which is also super, super nice. So you don't have to actually go to builtwith.com and type it in. You could just be on a website, hit the Chrome extension, and boom, everything you want's right there. So really, really slick application. And before we move
Yeah,
on, I've got an update. We had Massimo on our show from BluRoot several weeks ago talking about their new extension, WES, which is the Workflow Enhancement Suite. Oftentimes if you want to do something like, hey, if I update this field over in this contact, I'd like to take that field and I want to copy it over to my account, right? And normally you need to write just
hmm
3 lines of deluge code to make that happen, but you can actually build this yourself with Wes. And it was pre-release and now it's released and it's solid and they've done a fantastic job. And so I wanted to give them another call out there. It is $40 per month for this, or $360 per year for this extension. A lot of cool little things you can do with it. Um, and you get your money out of this pretty quickly. So I was chatting with Massimo this week and he's like, hey, it's released. I'm like, well, let's talk about it. So if you haven't checked that out,
yeah.
head over to,
It's got a beautiful.
go ahead, Greg.
Oh no, I was just saying it's got a beautiful interface. Like it just it blends in really well with just the CRM's aesthetic. They did a really good job of not only making it work right, but also making it look nice and not
Yeah.
janky.
Yeah. They've got some really, really interesting stuff over there. Um, really good guys, good developers, and this is great. Anyway, go over to the Zoho Marketplace, marketplace.zoho.com, search for WES, and you will find it. Or just subscribe to our newsletter, and the link will be right there. All right, let's move on to our tip of the week.
hmm
All righty, our tip this week, Greg, getting started on WordPress with Zoho SalesIQ. And in the competition with Drew for the new Mr. Hollywood is Tavin Boynton, who
We'll
has
have a pageant
basically,
at some point this year.
what's that?
I said we'll have a pageant at some point this year,
We
competing
will.
for
We
Mr.
will. And Tavin recently got has moved into a new home. Congratulations, Tavin. So this must have been shot just before. This is in he's converted a closet to an office. And so we shot that right there. But did a really nice job here. If you have not used Sales IQ, it basically allows you to track all visitor traffic that's going on your website. It is the chat widget that sits on your, it does so much, Greg.
Yeah, it really it tracks and it feeds into the CRM really well for you to be able to like organize your leads to see who's the who's your most engaged audience, that kind of a thing. Yeah, and it's got a really nice bot builder in it now. I think we've covered that a while back, but
Yeah.
like you can build a really nice sort of I mean, I guess essentially, it's almost like an IVR system, but just as a chat bot to ask a couple of questions to somebody, so then it'll direct them to the right kind of representative or the right department. Just get them in touch with the right people a lot faster, which is nice.
Yeah, it's some really cool. It's a great application. Sometimes I just like to sit there and look. You've got this circular view, this concentric circles,
Oh yeah,
and you can see how long people have been on your site and where they're coming in from and what's going on. And it's quite a nice little view if you haven't used it, just for seeing what's going on your site, what they're at, how long they spend on each page, all that kind of stuff. It's really, really interesting. And you combine that with Zoho PageSense. Both these are just two little snippets of code you put into your back into your website, and you can get heat maps and all sorts of other things. There's a lot you can do with those two applications. My guess is PageSense is probably up next on the on this as well. Anyway, nice job, Tavin. And as always, if you haven't, please head over to youtube.com and go ahead and click on that subscribe button and join us. We crossed 5,000. We actually, on Friday, just right after the show, another angel got its wings.
and you know why? It's because
So
I called them out on their conspiracies.
you did. You did. It was funny. We did that like 45 people, like later in the afternoon. It was like, oh yeah, we've been holding all these back. It kind of exploded, and we crossed over. So anyway, want to thank everybody for your support. YouTube.com/Zenatta. That's where all of our tutorials, our videos, our product reviews, and of course the CRM Zen Show. Oh, it seems like we need, like, when you're here, we need to change this graphic. Instead of Tyler's smiley face. Yeah, we might have to look at that. You never know. Anyway,
Yeah.
head on over to our YouTube channel, and we thank you so much for your support. And with that, Greg, I guess it's time for some Q&A, eh?
Let's do it.
All right. First question. After watching the how to set up email signatures inside Zoho CRM new 2021, Charlene Ruse says, that was great. Thank you. I'm wondering if you can set up an organization-wide signature like you can in Zoho Mail, so that it's the same for all staff and will populate the employee name and title. Or do we have to log in individually and add the signature? I wonder why it just doesn't automatically use Zoho Mail when sending from the CRM. We have wondered this too. Unfortunately, Charlene, no. But my guess is yes, it will probably happen. It's interesting. Your comment about Zoho Mail is a really good one. You can do the signatures there. It's a great thing to connect those. But there's a lot of people don't have Zoho Mail; they just have CRM. That's a simple connection to make. Except, I believe Josh, and if Josh is on here, you can verify that he's in the chat room. There's no API for that, Greg, if I remember correctly, because we have this builder. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
There's none.
Yeah, because
Right.
otherwise we would have done it.
Yes, because we actually have an application. It's a Zoho Creator application where we build all the signatures, all of our staff's in there. So anytime anything's changed, it's immediately updated, and we just copy and paste that and drop that over. And we were kind of like, well, we've got it in the Creator app. We just want to take this, write an API, and write it directly into the CRM. But that's one of the weird things in the CRM. There's no API connection for individual email signatures. So not quite
I
there
mean,
yet.
I think part of that does have to do with security. I believe, because I think it's the idea like there's not a lot of API things for being able to change individual user settings. Um, for example, you can't pull individual people's click messages, right? You could only pull from like organization channels. You can't grab anything that's not yours. So on that side, it's a great thing, because it's Zoho making it so that your your boss can't get somebody to write a piece of code that's gonna like
Right.
control everybody's personal settings. You get to have your personal settings. So on
But I
that side,
think
it's
what
good.
Charlene
But
is saying, I think what Charlene's saying, which is kind of interesting, is that you do have the profile. I have the user's first name, I have the user's last name, I have their phone number, I have their email address, I have all that in the profile. And if you could dump those in as variables, right? If you could create
oh
a
yeah,
universal variable template that automatically is applied, so it's got the logo, it's got all of that kind of stuff. I think that would be helpful too. So these are small little things. Zoho is constantly improving,
ideal situation would
constantly.
be if there could be like that setting of like you have an organization wide thing like that, and then maybe in the personal setting somebody could say there's like a drop down of use organization signature or use personal signature, and you could have a custom version of it if you wanted, kind of a thing. That would be good.
Agreed. Agreed. I bet you it'll happen soon. If not, give us the API. We can make it happen. That'd be an easy little thing to write. Okay. How to set up after watching the how to set up the new Zoho campaign sync. Kate Burhouse asks, brilliant. Thank you. Well, I think that's Wayne. I don't think he's ever been called brilliant before, but you never know. Here you go. I've been asking Zoho for screenshots or details of what happens when you hit the update now button. This is what they should have provided. This isn't really a question, but thank you, Kate. And I think it's pretty good. So actually, if you haven't watched that, Wayne, it's up our marketing group. He does all the campaigns. He did a super nice tutorial on that, stepping you through that new sync. So good stuff there. All right. And Zoho Desk full product tutorial 2022. Almir asked, it's a great tutorial. It helped me set up Zoho Desk. I do have one question. Is there a way to sync time entry from Zoho Desk Ticket into QuickBooks Online and create an invoice? Greg?
Yeah, we can create a workflow on the creation of a time entry, and then set up the connection to QuickBooks via API calls, and yeah, create whatever record it's going to be in QuickBooks for that
Yeah, so it's not
time.
something where it's not something you can just go do. You need to be able to write some deluge code, and you need to know APIs, and you need to make that connection, but it can be done. Absolutely.
There is a
All right.
way.
There is a way. All right. And then after watching the Zoho Desk full product tutorial 2020, I think we got 2022. So didn't we do 2022 already? I think so. Anyway, Game Show Pro says, I don't have a blood pressure monitor hooked up to me at the moment. But as a very recent user of Zoho, I'm sure your careful and organized explanation reduced it by 20%. Thank you. I have subscribed and always look forward to your site for more information. Well, thank you, Game Show Pro, for the nice comments there. And go watch the
Yeah,
2022 Zoho Desk one. I think you'll get more
I think it's great
information
that
off
now
of
we can advertise our show as like healthy for you.
that. All right, and this kind of a follow-up on the Zoho campaign sync with Zoho CRM. There have been some massive slowness issues around that. And David Gutierrez, who last week he was David Gutierrez, now he's David Gutierrez Casals, Thanked us for our answer last week, and there was a name mix-up. Now he's got his correct name. You get your minute of fame yet again, David. We wanted to get it corrected. He told us he reached out to Zoho support, and they said the slowness should be fixed next week. And I am hearing that it is much, much, much quicker. So they did not lie to you. Good stuff. And if I think that's a pretty darn good sync. All right, and then over at Club Zenatta, Rebecca Sternlicht wrote, "Hi all, my organization recently updated campaigns with the new sync settings. Good move. With these new settings, do segments auto-update when fields in the CRM change?" Greg? Yes, they do.
Yes, they do. They do
They
indeed.
do. Yep. And after I create a new segment with specific criteria, will it add, remove contacts based on the changes to those criteria in the CRM? Yes, it will, Rebecca. It's super nice. This new sync is a game changer across the board. The updating of the CRM, the instant, everything's instant. You can now filter off deals and deal info. There's so much in the new sync. The campaigns team really did a fantastic job there.
Yeah, it's
All
really nice.
righty. And we have a live chat question, actually an answer. Josh, our Vice President of Operations, writes, "Greg is correct. You can get the signature of the login user using API. However, you cannot get signatures of other users." So
Yeah,
you were talking security issue.
So if I write a piece of deluge code logged in as me, I could pull my own signature, or I could make a piece of code that you can set up a connection to use the credentials of whoever is logged in. And so you could have a piece of code that then would be able to pull in just your own signature for something. But you can't reach over to somebody else's.
Fantastic. And then Minimizer Software says, "Zenatta is the best feature of Zoho." God bless you. Thank you.
Chef kiss.
And I think, is that the last one? It appears it is. Greg, thank you so much for filling in today. Dude, we are breaking records. We're now 1 hour and 7 minutes. Man, we talk a lot, brother. Hey, if you have any questions, you want to book a meeting with us, head over to Zenatta.com and you can go ahead and just get on my calendar. Or if you want to ask us a question for the show, head over to club.zenatta.com.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to all the stories we've discussed today. We'd love if you'd follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us here on YouTube as well as your choice of podcast app. See you next Friday.
Thanks, everybody. Greg, great job, buddy. Thanks for filling in.
Love to be here.
All right. Rock and roll. Good shot. All right, everybody.